Okay, so thank you so much for joining today and welcome to our webinar, Accelerating AI into Production, the Rapid Path to Digital Transformation. We are joined today by three fantastic speakers. We have with us Thomas Blood from AWS. Thomas is the Digital Innovation Lead in EMEA and is setting the scene around digital transformation, why companies are doing it, and really proving how AWS is helping drive a culture of innovation and transformation. We will then hear from Neil Miles, who's the CEO of Inawisdom, who are an AWS Premier Partner and an AI and machine learning expert. And Neil will cover the role of AI and the role it has to play today in accelerating digital transformation and the real power of a data-driven strategy. Finally, we're delighted to be joined by our main speaker, Mohammed Sleek, who's the CDO of Aramex, a global logistics organization, and also an AWS and Inawisdom customer. And Sleek will take a real deep dive into the incredible digital transformation journey Aramex have achieved, their focus on innovation, and some of their exceptional results they've already achieved. At the end, we have a short slot for Q&A, so please do add any questions into the chat, and I'll put them to our panel at the end, time permitting, of course. And for the Q&A, we'll be joined by Phil Basford, who's Inawisdom's Head of Solution Engineering, an AWS ambassador, and was also the principal architect on the Aramex project. So he'll be on the panel to help with any technical questions. So with that, I'll pass to our first speaker, Thomas from AWS, to kick us off.
Hi, just 1 second. Very well, so thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. I'm really excited to be here with you. So I'm the Digital Innovation Leader for AWS for Europe, Middle East, and Africa. I've been with AWS for 4 years, and I was a customer before. And I've spent the last 4 years speaking with maybe 400 or 500 customers in the world, mostly in EMEA, but also all over the world. And these are some of the things we're seeing, right? We're seeing that there is this need and desire to go faster. So this is about becoming a high velocity organization, about going from the traditional way, which had very good reasons to move slower, to going to the much, much faster, agile, DevOps oriented ways of transformation and building new products and services for your customers. You know, so there's some themes here. There's a theme, of course, around being agile, reducing batch size so you can iterate faster, continuous improvement on all the things that you're working on, making decisions with data, much more with data and less with the highest paid person in the organization, the hippo. Bringing back together the business and IT, you know, bridging that divide that we've created over the last 20 or 30 years, reprioritizing and reacting to the market, being able to go fast, reducing the lead time. In Amazon, we treat lead time as a defect. If something is slowing us down, that's always seen as a defect. We want to optimize it and get rid of it. And then assuming that things are not going to always work out, and then building systems around that can recover quickly and are self-healing, essentially. Amazon itself, Amazon.com, had to go through this process. And along the way, over the last 30 years now, Amazon has developed a very distinct culture that's driven and aimed at innovation, at transformation, at speed. Right? It starts with the customer, always start with the customer, working backwards from the customer. We hire builders and pioneers, we enable them, we get out of their way, and we focus on the long term. We do this by having a very flexible architecture, self-service oriented. This is where the cloud AWS services came from this idea. It's about having the right kind of organization, small teams that are agile, that are empowered. We push the decision-making down to the lowest level possible. And then we have this notion of mechanisms, ways that allow us to accelerate, because, you know, we all have good intentions. When something doesn't work, we try harder, but at the end of the day, good intentions don't get us there. So we need mechanisms, ways that are replicable, that can be measured, that can be improved to drive us forward. And then finally, there's this notion around cultivating the culture we need to do this, right? And so when I was a customer more 6 years ago, I transformed my organization, which was Experian Consumer Services in the US. And the thing I learned very quickly is that it was not really a technical challenge. It was more about the cultural nuances and the organization, how we worked and how we worked together. And so it is critically important to pay attention to the cultural norms and the hidden unspoken texts that may exist, and to decide what culture we want. All of us have culture. It just kind of grows and emerges by itself. But we have the mechanism and the way to drive that culture. Amazon does this with leadership principles. These are not just hanging on the wall. These are actually lived every day. We have 14 of them. We start with the customer obsession. That's the very first one. And we go to deliver results. Everything in between is how we do it. And any employee at AWS will be able to talk to you at great depth and detail about these leadership principles and why they matter and how we use them to drive the business forward. The other thing I want to share again is this notion that we all are very comfortable with what we know. We have expertise, we have knowledge, we've gotten there through hard work, and so naturally that's where we like to hang out, in our comfort zone. But the reality of the matter is we have to push ourselves. We have to, again, start with the customer need, find that opportunity, that business objective that you're trying to get to. And again, I've spoken with hundreds of customers all over the world. This is unifying. We want to find better ways to serve our customers faster. And that requires us to push ourselves a little bit outside of the comfort zone. That is, in fact, where the magic happens. And so I want to leave you with this notion that ultimately this is about leadership. Ultimately, this is about driving the organization forward with a bold vision, having a drumbeat, and creating excitement in the organization, leading forward, and everyone else will follow. And it's really, really important to have this really clear goal. Start with the customer, look for the pain point that your customers are having, find fast ways of solving it, using the support from Inawisdom to help you do that, and then drive to this bold vision, which then takes it to the results that you want to get to. And with that, I will pass and yield my time. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Thomas. Wow, I love that last quote. That's so good. Fantastic. Right, I shall now hand over to Neil from Inawisdom to take us on to the next section.
Hello, everybody. Hopefully you can see me, hear me, and see the screen. Absolutely delighted to be with you this afternoon. And for some of you, it's the evening, and I really appreciate those that have taken the time out of their day and also into their evenings to support us in sharing some great content to this today. So I shall do just quickly 1 minute introduction to Inawisdom, but I really want to set the scene for what we see as a great example of what is possible, the art of the possible, that boldness that Thomas has just spoken about, which is sleek and the transformation journey using AI that Aramex have been through. So the quick introduction to Inawisdom. Now, we are an EMEA-wide focused and specialist partner working solely in data foundations, analytics, AI and ML. It's what we do day in, day out. And I think the important thing here is that AI and ML and transformation is nothing without the data, and any insights that are created are nothing without their implementation. So having a full stack of capabilities and helping our customers to accelerate those skills and those capabilities is what we're here to do, to really deploy and deliver those transformational services within businesses. Clearly, for us, a key and I believe a fundamental ingredient is the cloud and unlocking that value of the public cloud as a key enabler. And as such, we're very proud to be an AWS partner that's been mentioned before. And that deep relationship brings hopefully support and capabilities from both Inawisdom and AWS to help accelerate our customers' journeys. But ultimately, I think there is something that really is more important than all of that, and it's focusing on our customers. And as Andy Jassy would say, there is no compression algorithm for experience. So it's all about how do we help and share and accelerate across many use cases, many sectors, and many technical landscapes. So this is very much a data-driven transformation. Already we've discussed that from Thomas's perspective, and obviously we're fully supportive of that, and we'll see that as we go through today. And it's very much the agility and adaptability of AI that is delivering this true market differentiation. And there are so many use cases, some of which we'll be covering today. Clearly, the rapid expansion and sophistication of AI is really what's driving the pace of transformation. And no one can doubt the unstoppable force that is data itself, both not just in terms of volume, but the richness of sources, both inside and outside many customer organizations. We've seen this inevitable journey, and we see many key stages. Analogy could be digitization is where we embrace the cloud. Digitalization is where we talk about visualization, BI, and analytics, and how really we can help businesses gain some initial insights. But ultimately, digital transformation that has been driven by the use of AI and IML. And I think that's the phase that we're at. And those leading organizations are really driving digital transformation, data-driven digital transformation with the use of AI and ML. One of the questions and some of the challenges that are often raised is where to start. There is an immense source of data. There are an immense set of stages and potential areas of work to be done with the data. And clearly there is an immense number of potential opportunities and users of that data and the reason for driving the digital transformation. And it may seem overwhelming. But I think an important concept, something that was touched upon in Thomas's presentation, along the lines of working backwards, and that's from thinking about it from right to left. Think about the outcome, think about the why. Why are we trying to achieve this? What is the goal? What is the problem we're trying to solve? If you work back from that, then you can start to implement incrementally the services and capabilities that you need. i.e., you don't need to do everything at once. There's the ability to build and increment and build out and make that digital transformation work at pace. And I think delivery at pace and delivering value quickly is a real driving factor as part of that success. But of course, there's one thing you should always remember, which is at the bottom of this particular slide, which is don't forget the foundations. You do need a secure and safe and scalable environment from day one, because you are working with your crown jewels, which is the data, and therefore make sure you have the right foundations in place and build upon it incrementally. I think the potential of AI and transformation that it's driving is absolutely immense. We've seen so many different use cases and opportunities, both which could be seen at the top line or at bottom line benefit, but also the whole creativity and innovation that's exploding and accelerating across the world today. It is a challenging environment that we work within, and if anything, I think the ability of data and data insights to inform and drive business decisioning is so much more important in today's challenging environment. Probably to finish, for me, and really to make a great introduction to Sleek and the Aramex capabilities, is this main reason we're here. This is not theory, this is practice. We're seeing organizations such as Aramex achieve some amazing successes, and I'm very proud to have been part in a small way of that conversation and meeting Sleek late in 2018 and working to where we can to support and accelerate the digital transformational journey that Aramex is on. The approach that has been taken is also an exemplar of what we've spoken about before. Having the vision and goal in the first place, the why, considering the transformation of the customer last mile activities, and I don't want to take too much away from Sleek, but also embracing the cloud and having that incremental approach, I think is so important. Rapid transformation is key. The first use cases that we implemented were live within 8 weeks, and how we are able to help and accelerate Sleek and his team in that journey is something that we're particularly proud of. And I think it's probably the right time for me to hand over to Sleek and tell that story for himself. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Neil. That certainly highlighted the power of AI and ML for organizations. So I'll now hand over to Sleek, who's going to give us the insights into the Aramex's digital transformation journey.
Thank you, Tabitha. Thanks very much. Thank you guys for having me. It's very exciting to be here. I just wanted to make sure that you see my screen. So first of all, my name is Mohammed Sleek. Just a quick introduction. I'm the Chief Digital Officer at Aramex, and I've been in the industry for almost 17 years in the transportation industry, obviously. And First of all, thank you so much for having me. It's very exciting to be here to talk to you a little bit about our journey in machine learning and AI. But I thought in the beginning it would be nice to talk to you a little bit about the transportation industry and who we are as an organization. So we are obviously a company that has been established since 1982. We have the company quickly grew into a global brand operating in 65 countries plus almost. We have almost 15,000 employees from 84 nationalities. We operate around the world. We cover the world. And we have around 550 plus offices. And we almost have 613 square meter facility strategically located in different parts of the world, whether the emerging markets or even in mature markets as well. So just to give you a little bit of statistics about who we are and the number of shipments that we've delivered across year 2019 and even this year as well. So last year, we delivered almost 100 million shipments to 37 unique consumers, and out of which 60% of them are B2C customers. And if you look at the industry today, if you look at our business model that we operate in today, 10 years compared to now, I can tell you the whole industry is transforming, right? And nowhere has the digital disruption, I mean, people talk about disruptions and so on. Nowhere has the disruption been more evident than in the transportation industry. And I can tell you 60% of our volumes today are driven by e-commerce. The whole thing is actually fueled by the growth of e-commerce. And effectively, Aramex became an e-commerce enabler. So we connect e-commerce markets in different parts of the world into the Middle East, where we have the biggest last mile infrastructure, and this becomes, you know, a challenge, of course, from a B2C to B2B mindset. The company traditionally used to compete with the traditional operators, but today we are competing with digital operators, a new breed of competition that we are competing with, that claim to solve for the last mile problem, right? And this competition also landscape is also changing, where we compete with our own customers as well. So these e-tailers, marketplaces, or big retailers are investing in their own last mile infrastructure, disrupting really the industry itself, and challenging the very fundamentals of the traditional supply chain that we have. And obviously, this is a trend that we continue to see. So I wanted to give you a gist of where the industry is today. I'm sure many of industries are experiencing disruption, but I can tell you the disruption on the transportation industry has been immense, fueled by the growth of e-commerce, like I mentioned. And the challenges there is the last mile capacity limitations, the volatility in the volumes that we see because it's a seasonal business, the growing customer expectations, both on the B2B and the B2C side, actually, and the need for a cognitive experience, the online platforms and becoming digital and so on. The need for, and the challenges there is the need for faster delivery, right? Which again, strain the fundamentals of, you know, the hub bespoke model, the light asset model that we have, and so on. Supply chain visibility becomes very important through these apps and the cognitive or the next generation of customer engagement experience, right? And of course, COD in the region is one of the biggest trends that we see, which is cash on delivery. So imagine last year alone, we collected almost $1.2 billion of cash on behalf of e-tailers. So that's a big trend that we see today. So imagine the cash management cycle that has to go through to pay for these cost of goods. And this is, again, not because of any credit card penetration issues, but customers in the Middle East would like to touch and see and look at these products before they actually pay for them. So it's a big trend in the region. Emerging last mile technologies, again, is a big area for us. I mean, people talk about drones and autonomous vehicles and so on. And again, this is a little bit further on the radar, the tech radar for Aramex. But then I think the biggest technology that's emerging today is AI. Again, people talk about blockchains and all of these last mile technologies. I think AI is an immediate focus area for a lot of the organizations today, not only for our industry, but I think the biggest disruption that you see today is AI and cloud. And a lot of companies obviously are scrambling to digitize their core landscape, introducing AI and machine learning as part of their core capability. And of course, a lot of challenges pose here when it comes to the legacy landscape, some of the operational processes that are built, the legacy mindset that's available within your business processes, I'm assuming, which hinders this process per se. I couldn't help myself but talk a little bit about COVID-19 and the impact of COVID-19, other than the fact that I'm super OCD and I worry a lot about getting infected. Although I'm still young, but still it is it's a challenge that took the world by surprise, and we are no different. The challenges post COVID-19, obviously the trends that we just saw are the storyline that we used to talk about until February this year, right? But then post-COVID, we had to deal with obviously government restrictions and enforced lockdowns, and we are considered an essential industry, right? We had to continue to serve the supply chain of goods in our core markets, and we had to operate in these tough conditions, which means that last mile capacity became even more of a problem. Health measures that were imposed in our distribution centers, reducing the throughput, resource constraints. At one point, we had to deal with, extracting our drivers from lockdown areas and so on. A complete shift in the profile of business and the consumer buyer trends. Retailers shifting massive, accelerating the digital transformation journey. The big retailers that we look at, not only the marketplaces, into accelerating their omni-channel strategies, which again was straining our capacity and limiting our capacity even more and more, and the huge surge that we saw in the number of shipments, and of course the limited airline capacity. Most of the airlines were operating at reduced schedules. Obviously, we're not we don't own planes. We have very light asset model, which is currently being challenged with the dependency on commercial flights and so on. And of course, digitalization and became more of a commodity, right? So frictionless deliveries, the restriction in the cash handling that we used to see in our last mile delivery and so on. I had to mention obviously COVID because it really accelerated even more and more our need for us to transform digitally and become more and more agile and nimble. This is our transformation strategy that's very specific to us when it comes to our transformation journey. We kicked off a large enterprise transformation program beginning of year 2019 when I took over my role. And obviously the roadmap or the strategy has multiple folds to it. So one is the customer journey, right? So you want to digitize the end-to-end customer engagement experience. And of course, the name of the game here, and this is how AI plays into picture here, we want to know more about our consumers. Effectively, we've touched every single consumer, every single person within our communities today, whether we're delivering a credit card delivery, whether we are delivering a package, an e-commerce package that's coming from the US or the UK, or coming from China, or coming from different parts of the world into the Middle East. So we have a large amount of information about the consumer buyer trends and the last mile preferences of our customers. So the name of the game here for us is, how do I create a Netflix experience, right? How do I know when I'm doing a delivery for a consumer that this is his or her time slot delivery? This is these are the last mile preferences for that customer, so that I can offer a seamless delivery experience, which is in fact our vision here. So last mile transformation, of course, and again, I'm not talking about the last mile technologies, the advanced ones. We're talking about how do we embed AI and machine learning to achieve autonomous last mile control and tap into the next generation delivery capacity. How do we operate a variable model that can scale and ramp up and ramp down based on this seasonality that we're seeing today? how do we take away from the manually intensive process that is embedded within my operational capacity and empower the users to make decisions on the ground without the need for a skilled worker to look at an address, so on and so forth. So these are some of the things that I will talk about in my presentation and so on. Data analytics, again, powering the whole strategy. There's a big focus on analytics and big data driven. We want to become a data-driven organization. We want to introduce AI and machine learning capabilities within every single process that we have within our operations, and even driving some of our decisions when it comes to customer experience and so on. Tech-driven products, what we call digital products, led by modern applications teams. This is something that we're doing where we tap into crowdsourcing models, whether on the driver capacity or tech-driven products to crowdsource our Pudo networks and the pickup and drop-off networks and so on, which also powers and scale the business of Aramex. And of course, the most painful area, which is the core modernization and the cloud migration, which again, and I call it painful because we're really reimagining our core landscape. And of course, we are not very different from a lot of organizations within the same complexity and scale, with a monolithic landscape that hinders the scalability, and becoming cloud native becomes a very difficult task for a lot of organizations today. So this is mainly the digital transformation that we have. I'll focus much on this in the interest of time, but this is a picture, an enterprise, an as-is architecture of our enterprise landscape. It's again very heavy. We are a company that invested in homegrown applications, homegrown systems, whether on the customer interfacing platforms or the core products or in the business applications. So we had to focus on a target architecture that modernizes the digital core, represented in red here, by introducing third-party technologies, tier one technologies, and even when there aren't any representation or products in the market that offer a total transportation solution, TMS, or a transport management system, we are modernizing our core landscape and migrating it to the cloud. So the whole thing, which is the beginning of the journey that we started with AWS and Inawisdom, to create a big data infrastructure, creating a big data lake that powers this digital core and accelerates our transformation even more and more. So this thing is wrapping our digital core. This is how we like to look at it. This is how we represent it. And of course, this is the start of the journey with AWS as a platform and Inawisdom as a machine learning partner, and the skills and the capabilities that we got from Inawisdom in this scenario. Of course, the whole thing would be wrapped with a digital experience that is powered through our digital core and our big data environment to power through the discussion and the interaction with our consumers and our B2B online and self-service platforms. Again, the customer journey very quickly. I'm going to go through the focus areas. So there's a massive focus on digital touchpoints, consumer intelligence and predictions, whether on transit times, robust notification engines, predicting time window deliveries based on consumer preferences. There's a big area here for us to look at. Integrations and payment solutions, reverse logistics, again, is one of the main components for us that trigger a lot of customer stickiness and customer engagement as well. Again, for the interest of time, I will not go through that. Again, I would skip the again. So I just wanted to mention a few things that we're doing on the customer experience. So we're Uberizing our deliveries, right? So we're looking at ways to power the communication with consumers by representing a map view of where your shipment is today. You can schedule online digitally, and you can look at a digital interaction all the way up to the actual last mile or final mile delivery. So we do a lot of scheduling attempts with our consumers digitally. We are one of the biggest, I would say, WhatsApp for business users. backed by an AI-based chatbot that runs on the cloud today to power some of the discussions that we have with our customers. And we're also augmenting with our consumer app some of the digital experience and the supply chain visibility that we want, and the real-time tracking updates on our deliveries today. So imagine every day we deliver we have an output delivery capacity in one of the biggest countries, which is Saudi Arabia today. We dispatch almost 150,000 shipments a day in Saudi Arabia, which again is a massive number compared to the number of shipments that we have globally. Again, Aramex Smart is another area within our transformation journey where you shop, and we're launching a payment solution, a pay later solution, and we're also tying up with our retailers to do that. So we're really going all out when it comes to serving our consumers in ways that empower the e-commerce landscape and support the growth of e-commerce within the region. Last mile transformation, again, the driver journey is a big area for us. So we're looking at ways to incentivize drivers to deliver more, which is again an industry norm, and we're doing this using analytics and data-driven dashboards and gamification and so on. So this is something that we're doing on top of our data lake as well. Route optimization is a big area for us. Again, for a lot of you who don't know, who don't live in the Middle East, one of the biggest challenges that we have today is the lack of a proper address management structure. So imagine you have to dispatch 150,000 shipments every day in Saudi Arabia without an XY coordinate or without a postcode structure. There's high dependency on descriptive addresses, which also is a big challenge for us. And we'll talk a little bit about how we solve that problem, the geocoding problem that we have in the region using AI and ML with the help of Inawisdom as a partner. Time-bound deliveries, again, we're the only partner in the region or transportation solution provider in the region that offer a two-hour delivery window, which again continues to be one of the biggest challenges for the industry today, given the challenges of the industry in our part of the world. Again, and last mile innovation is really about the next generation of delivery capacity that we need to tap into, whether on crowdsourcing our deliveries and crowdsourcing our Pudu networks and the lockers that are strategically located in different locations. And we started being, a company that operates and had offices in Dubai. We started having discussions with the government here on designing an Aramex autonomous vehicle, designing an Aramex drone delivery. What would it look like and how would it look like? We don't think this is something that will happen in the next 2 to 3 years, but we know 5 years down the line, it's a discussion that we need to engage with now in order to build for the future. Again, example on our platforms. This is our crowdsourcing platform where you can tap into individual providers or Uber-like models to scale up your capacity in peak seasons, which again continues to be the biggest problem for us. How do we ramp up and ramp down our capacity based on the seasonality of this business, which again is very important for us. Again, Aramex Spot, which is the Pudu network. So we go into retailers and small shops, and we offer our technology that runs again on the cloud and power the shipment density throughout these pickup and drop networks to offer convenience for the e-commerce. And I tell you, the man and van age is going to disappear at one point of time. This is something that we know, we're very conscious about, and that's why we're building the capacity around our distribution network and how do we offer a very wide range of delivery locations and drop-off networks that can power the relationship with our consumers today. Again, so on the big data statistics, I can tell you confidently that we have one of the biggest data lakes in the region on AWS. I'd like to believe that. AWS don't tell me this information, but I'd like to believe that it's true. At one point, at least, we were the biggest data lake in the region, or the AI or machine learning customer for AWS in this part of the world. We have almost, and of course Phil can support me here, We have 10.2 terabytes of data stored in this data lake. Every 15 minutes, we ingest almost 1.5 million records into this data lake, into an ingestion layer that is moved and stored in Redshift, which again is a very optimized setup for us, that moves this data into Amazon SageMaker, which is our machine learning platform that we're using, powered by Amazon. And of course, the number of use cases that we have deployed is between 5 to 6 use cases. I think Phil will have more and more information about me on this one, actually. And the number of predictions that we're doing every minute is between 600 to 800. And these predictions can go up to 1,000 and 200 per minute as well. So these are some of the statistics that we're very proud about in our big data infrastructure. Of course, the data science driven transformation, we have obviously a data science team that is insourced within Aramex today, supported by Inawisdom capability when it comes to data engineering, data transformation, solution architecture. We have lead architects sitting on the AWS and sitting on the Inawisdom as a partner. They help us design, architect, transform, and engineer a lot of our use cases today. Again, these are the domains, these are the buckets, and whoever is listening to this discussion today, the most important topic here, which again Thomas talked about, which I really liked, is really about the technology will always be there to support you, right? It's really about the culture of innovation and the use cases that you need to power through your transformation. And these are the domains that we are looking at today, and the roadmap of these use cases, where we think it has the biggest impact on the business, the biggest impact on the customer experience, and the biggest impact on the last mile transformation. So we have a program that's called the Address Journey. And again, this is all about route optimization, all about address geocoding to solve for one of the top problems that we have in our part of the world. Domain number 2 is the last mile optimization. We're looking at ways to empower the driver, to incentivize the driver, to optimize, to improve the upstream process for the driver to do his deliveries in a very optimized way. So things like route target prediction, gamification, the vehicle usage optimization, and so on. This is another domain that we're looking at, and of course we've thought very hard and deep about these capabilities and domains. Consumer intelligence and prediction, again, one of the most important elements within the journey of our customer experience roadmap. We have a lot to do there, and every single one of them, every single caption within this has expanded into 3 or 4 use cases, 3 or 4 APIs, 3 or 4 deployments. All of these components will help power the discussion with customers. They're not easy. It's something that we go into deep analysis and deep learning models that can offer the value that we want to offer to our customers. We go into testing phases. We go into very deep discussions on how we can improve these models, because we're creating them from scratch, right? And we're trying to innovate using the data. And effectively, I tell you, I've always told my team that Aramex is a data company. Yes, we do logistics, but primarily we are sitting on massive amounts of data that we have to leverage and put into use. I wish I have 30 data scientists. Although this discussion is something that we're having with our board, and we're able to link some of the benefits and the KPIs on every single use case that you see on the screen here with business benefits and targets, which is easily doable, but we have to believe in it. And the culture of the organization that Thomas talked about really powers this data-driven mindset somehow. Again, capacity planning and forecasting, and again, is the biggest area for us. I tell you, most of our customers today, most of these retailers, they have no clue on the numbers and the volumes that they were producing and injecting within our landscape today. They do marketing campaigns. They do a lot of effort on on driving a lot of sales into their platforms, but then we're becoming more proactive in predicting the forecasts using AI and machine learning for our customers so that we can plan the capacity properly on our side and be more proactive with customers on what can we accept in terms of business owner, specifically after COVID-19. And I can tell you, for the first time, we've turned away business. And that is something that was driven by the fact that we've been proactive with some of our customers, and we said, we know you very well. We know the COVID-19 situation is impacting you, and we know for a fact that you will deliver and you will inject more business than we can chew. So for the first time, we were a bit more proactive in predicting capacity, and we turned away business and to ensure that we can actually handle these volumes and handle the surge in the volumes that we're seeing. And of course, whatever doesn't fit within all of these domains, we put under core digital products. These are specific use cases, ad hoc use cases that we're looking at to solve some of the problems that we have on the ground. Again, the last slide is really about, again, we talked about the journey where we started with creating the data lake. Of course, we operate a legacy environment, an in-house environment, in-house developed application landscape that has a lot of interdependencies, that has a lot of, I would say, monolithic architecture. And I think the next phase of this journey, while we're powering through our AI and big data infrastructure, the next step in the journey, which actually has been started and initiated, we're migrating, we're re-architecting most of our solutions into the cloud. We performed a migration readiness assessment and planning exercises. We've dissected, we looked at most of our solutions within the landscape. We have a very complex landscape, and we are looking at carving out and moving into a microservices kind of architecture that can scale the organization, look at modern and cloud native technologies that can handle the volumes. We're looking at event streaming layers that are transactional in nature, that can handle the loads, handle the seasonality of the business. Also look at database layers that are non-relational, like MongoDB and so on. And obviously this whole thing is really going to be running on AWS as we go along. The migration journey started. This is just a very high-level view of how the landscape would look like, whether on the front-end applications, the business microservices, tiers, event streaming, and so on. And we're very excited on this journey. There were multiple products, multiple approaches on a lift and shift model versus full re-architecture. We chose to do it the harder path because we knew for a fact that a lift and shift will not deliver value. Some of our products are not even shippable on the cloud because of the legacy applications and the legacy technology choices that we have within the landscape naturally. So we're migrating all of that into a different architecture on AWS. So this is it for me, Tabi. Thank you so much for having me. I hope I'm way over my time. So thank you so much for having me, and I hope you enjoyed the session.
Well, thank you so much, Lee. That was such an interesting presentation and a completely shining example of digital transformation. So really good to hear your story. Thank you so much. So to finish, I've selected just a couple of questions that I was hoping to put to our panel before we all go. So if okay, I'm going to start with Thomas. And one of the questions we've had is around kind of the pitfalls or advice for anyone who's about to start a digital transformation project. Is there some sort of tidbits of knowledge you can give to them, or sort of challenges or pitfalls to avoid if they're looking to start something?
Yeah, there are a couple of things that come to mind. So one, in my past, I've been in the military. We like to overanalyze a lot of things, right? We like to spend a lot of time up front researching and studying and having committees. Don't go for that temptation. Instead, start with this. I had this phrase that I used with my team when I was a customer, which I stole shamelessly somewhere, which was think big, start small, go fast. Put together a team as quickly as possible. Skills are a challenge always, which is why you have partners like Inawisdom who can help you with that. But also don't be afraid to train your people, right? You have hired smart people in your organization. You hired them because they're smart, and they actually want to learn these new ways of doing things and thinking about the cloud. Neil?
Yeah, brilliant, thank you. Yeah, Neil, can I come to you next on that one?
I think the short answer to answer that question was going to be the word ditto. I actually totally agree with what Thomas has just said. And yeah, I think there always will be potential barriers and perceived barriers, you know, data quality, legacy, all of those issues that you could overanalyze before you start. And I think that the real challenge is these are all overcomable, and you really do need to get going and start quick. Because I think the key is if you don't, your competitors are, right? So you're not the outlier by having those issues. Everyone has those issues. Everybody has some form of legacy. Everybody has some form of data quality. You'd be the outlier if you didn't have those things. So really just a long way of saying, I agree with what Thomas has just said, really you've got to discover and get going quickly. And it probably builds upon, again, something I said earlier, which is that right to left, which is, you know, do it in an incremental way and think about the outcome and what you're trying to achieve, that goal. So probably just reiterate those 2 points, and get going.
Brilliant, thank you so much. Okay, there's a good message. Get going, everybody. Okay, so our next question was, and this is perfect actually, because Sleek certainly touched on this, is the integration or use of legacy systems a barrier to digital transformation?
Yeah, absolutely not. I think I used to think this way 2 years ago, and before we engaged with the Inawisdom guys. And one of the biggest challenges we had in the past is how do we move this data? How do we move this data from traditional relational databases, SQL or others, from our environment, the on-prem environment, into the cloud? And of course, there's a lot of thought leadership in the market, and don't shy away from outsourcing. IT outsourcing is the biggest, trend in the IT industry today. There's a lot of experts out there who can challenge some of the assumptions that you think you have and some of the challenges that you think you have and solve them. So I tell you, we've been trying to do big data in Aramex for the past, I would say 6 years or even 7 years. And I can tell you we've been only successful when we onboarded the right partners, because there's a push methodology, there's a pull methodology, there is multiple ways of doing and moving data from the legacy systems into establishing a big data lake. And if you bring the right experts, a lot of companies face the same challenges. So you can really power that discussion with the right partners around you, and don't shy away from IT outsourcing. I think it will accelerate your journey, it will accelerate your transformation objectives, and link a lot of the things that you want to do, and let you focus on the core activities. Let your team focus on the business. And one of the things that we've done at Aramex, we said, you know what, Inawisdom, you take data engineering, you take the transformation logic, you take over the legacy system part, and how do we establish this big data, and you will help us. And we said we're going to hire our data scientists, because these guys need to be very close to the business. They need to innovate with the business, and based on that, we've been able to achieve what we wanted to achieve.
Fantastic, great answer, thank you so much. And since we're lucky to be joined by our sort of technical expert, Phil, would I be able to ask you the same question about kind of the integration, whether legacy systems can never be a challenge?
Sure. So from a kind of a technology point of view, I don't think there is any barriers. There's by far some tougher nuts to crack, but in the day you can crack them. I suppose the advantage of the AWS cloud is that you have the access to all the best tools. They come in the form of SaaS style services that AWS offer, other commercial products that you can use in the marketplace, and open source projects that you can also bring in. So for me, from a techie point of view, it's great to have all those tools available, and it's about how we apply them and using my skills as an engineer and architect about how to get that use case live. Brilliant.
Fab. Okay, thank you. We've got time for one more. So Sleek, this is one's back for you. Someone's asked about kind of internal skills, and what internal skills does an organization need to really execute a kind of AI and ML project?
Yeah, so look, as I mentioned earlier, I think data engineering is something that we decided not to in-source within Aramex. We depend fully on Inawisdom, and we have specific governance on certain programs that can help set the architecture and decide on how the data will be exchanged. The capabilities that we've invested in is only data science capabilities. We depend fully on Inawisdom from a data engineering perspective, as I mentioned, and the capabilities that we invested in is data science capabilities that can really have a meaningful discussion with the business, right? So people who understand geocoding, people who understand the industry norm, the industry flavor, the industry jargons, and so on, who are familiar with developing these components as well. I'm not saying you cannot outsource data science. You can definitely do that. But with the close relationship that data scientists needs to have with the business, we've decided to insource that. We do work with Inawisdom on some data science use cases and data engineering use cases, but the majority of the work and capability that we've built is data science within Aramex. Now, some people might challenge and say, well, data scientists need to deploy end to end, and we say, okay, that's fine, but we would like our team to focus on core activities, right? Which again is really innovating, understanding the business problems, being on the ground, and being very in touch with the operations managers and the operations supervisor on the pain points. And these guys can innovate and work nicely with the data engineers that can prepare these data components and innovate for the organization. Again, we haven't really invested in lead architects and solution architects as well. That's something that we're looking at the moment, but it never really hindered our transformation, I would tell you. Again, we operate a very a multi-vendor environment within our transformation, and that's the only way you can accelerate your transformation to meet your business objective.
Brilliant. Okay. And Phil, from your perspective, I know obviously you're the principal architect on the Aramex project. So, you know, what skills would you say a business needs so that, you know, you can work successfully with them as a partner?
In terms of in the actual team day to day, I think the main two things I would say would be passion and relentless focus on actually delivering value. That's the kind of the qualities that the entire kind of team has that are building these use cases. And with Aramex and Mohammed's team, we work as one unit and we complement each other really well. As Mohammed said, they bring the data science and the domain knowledge, and we bring the AWS architecture, the ML engineering, the data engineering, and the DevOps skills to kind of realize and productionize those use cases. So the answer is you kind of need a very broad range of skills to make these things live, but there is skilled people out there, and you can use a mixed team.
Brilliant. Okay, well, fantastic. Thank you all so much. So with that, I will say thank you very much to our panel and obviously everyone who joined us today. Just so you know, you'll all receive the recording of the webinar later on. If you have any questions at all, please do get in touch with us. Otherwise, I'll thank you again. And with that, I shall close our webinar. Many thanks, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.